fourth grade. So for today's first day of review, we're just going to take a look at some of the things that we learned in this unit, and then tomorrow we'll do the rest. So first, looking at our vocab from this unit, we have more than the vocab that is listed on this page, but just looking at those three problems, a blank is 1/360th of a circle. So if we look acute angle, degree, parallel, or perpendicular, well, acute angle is smaller than 90 degrees, but it's not 1/60th of a circle. A degree is 1/60th of a circle. 1 degree on your protractor is 1/360th of that whole circle. So we will write degree here. Oops. Two lines are blank if they form a right angle. So when we want to think about two lines, either this way or this way, that's how we learned two lines being. So if they form a right angle and they cross, so in order to form a right angle, they have to cross. But if they cross and form a right angle, they are perpendicular lines. And remember, we can kind of remember because parallel has two parallel lines in it. Perpendicular. All right, and number 3, and blank has a measure of less than 90 degrees. Now we already kind of talked about this one. An acute angle is smaller than 90 degrees. It's more than 0, but less than 90. So an acute angle. Okay, number 4. We need to use our protractor. So if you're watching this, I would recommend that you get your protractor and make sure that you're lining this up as I talk you through it. So the first thing that you're going to do when you get your protractor is you're going to line up the vertex of your angle with the center of your protractor. So we'll say line up vertex of angle with the center of protractor. Now, you're going to make sure, because we talked a lot about there being two scales on a protractor. One starts 0 and goes to 180 degrees, and then one starts 0 and goes to 180 degrees. They're opposite because we never know which way the angle is going to be facing. So if we look at this angle, our 0, we want our 0 to be here, and then we're going to count up to the other ray of that angle. So we're going to make sure, let's see, what did I write? I wrote that we are going to line one ray, line up one ray with 0, and the other, we'll say, and use the other to find the measure of the angle. To find the measure of the angle. Now, this angle, if you measure it extremely carefully, you will find that we have an angle measure of 40 degrees here. If you don't get 40 degrees, what I would recommend to you is I would recommend that you make sure that your vertex is lined up exactly in that center of your protractor. And then I would also recommend that you make sure that 0 is lined up with this bottom ray. If you're still having trouble, I might recommend that you extend these rays to be a little bit longer so that you can see it a little bit clearer through your protractor, because your protractor hopefully is see-through. So those are some things that I would recommend to you. Okay, looking at these figures below, and 5 and 6, we're doing kind of the same thing. We're going to circle the figures that have parallel lines. So we're looking A square has parallel lines. It doesn't ask how many it has, so we just want to circle all the ones with parallel lines. So we've got parallel lines here with a rectangle, no parallel lines with a triangle, none of them, they all touch at one point. And then we have parallel lines with this six-sided figure there and there. There's more, but we just want to find one set of parallel lines for this question. Number 6 says, look at the figure below, look at the figures below, circle the figures that have acute angles. And be very careful with this one because this guy might trick you. This pentagon has only obtuse angles. There's no acute angles, there's no right angles, it's only obtuse angles, and they're all connected to make this pentagon. We have acute angles with this rhombus, and we have acute angles in this triangle. Only right angles in this square and only obtuse angles in this pentagon. Number 7 and 8, pay close attention to how I draw this because if they are done any other way, they are incorrect. So a line AB. So to have a line, you must have a straight line. That's what you need to start with. You must have arrows. If you do not have arrows, it is not a line. You must have arrows at the end of each side of your line in order for it to be a line. And then because they give us a name, I'm going to give it some endpoints, A and B. The key to having a properly drawn line are the arrows. You must have those arrows. If you don't, again, it is not a line. You have drawn something else. Number 8 asks for a line segment. So you have 2 dots, a straight line, and then you name them the letters that they give you, F and G. Looking at numbers 9 and 10. So remember, in order to be parallel, the lines must never touch. And in order to be perpendicular, the lines must touch and create right angles. So number 9, we have perpendicular lines. And number 10, we have parallel lines. Because the distance between these 2 lines here and here remains the same. They are never, ever going to touch. And then here we've created right angles all the way around. Okay, there are 2 steps to 11 and 12. Number 1, measure the angle. And then number 2, decide if it's acute, obtuse, or right based on the measure. So first you need to measure and you need to write that measure down. So our measure for number 11, this angle is 120 degrees. And it is an obtuse angle because it's larger than 90 degrees, but less than 180. Number 12, the angle measure, when we use our protractor carefully, we get 35 degrees. A 35-degree angle is less than 90 degrees, but more than 0, so it is an acute angle. Numbers 13 and 14, we're naming the triangle by its sides. So remembering that these little marks here on 13 mean that those 2 sides are equal. When we have 2 sides that are equal, we have an isosceles triangle. And then 14, we have no sides that are equal. There's no tick marks on any of those sides, so none of them are equal. So that means that we have a scalene triangle. And then finally, looking at 15, there's lots of parts, so make sure that you answer each part clearly. So first, we're going to list all the names for the quadrilateral. We're going to start with the broadest term, the least specific term for this quadrilateral. Since there are 2 sets of opposite sides that are parallel, we're going to call it a parallelogram. Then we might investigate further and decide that all of these side lengths are the same. So that makes it a rhombus. It is not a square or a rectangle because they don't have right angles. So it's just a rhombus. Now we've used the same figure for all three of these figures. So just make sure that you're paying close attention to the side lengths. We're going to name our triangles because that's the next step. We have triangle LOM and triangle LMN. And these triangles, remember, they're not, it's the same figure, so it's a little skewed because of the way it's scanned, but they're not right angles. Okay, this is the same figure 3 times. So we have an isosceles triangle because two of the sides are the same. So isosceles. And we also have acute triangles here because all of the angles are acute. Then looking at this third section, we have triangles LOM and triangle MON. And again, we have isosceles triangles because 2 of the side lengths are the same. And now we have obtuse angles or obtuse triangles because these angles are obtuse. And that ends today's review. Pay close attention to number 15. 15 has a lot to do with question 5 and 6 on your quick quiz, which is on Google Classroom. Make sure that you submit it on the Google form and not turning in a scanned copy. I want it turned in on the Google form. If you have any questions, please, please, please let me know. I'll see you soon.